Hello and welcome to episode 129 of Controller Club, the friendly face gaming space, a podcast where three friends from three different continents share in one love, and that is video games. My name is Kleinfeld, and alongside me today are three very esteemed guests joining me. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. First, coming to us from across the pond, it is the digital art daredevil himself, Tom Drew. Tom, how are you? What's going on? How's life?
Yeah, things are doing good. It was we're celebrating Arcane month here on the podcast. But it's been a bit of an Arcane week in particular for me, which I'll get a bit more into when we talk about what we've been playing. But it's been pretty exciting. I can't wait to talk about the things I've been doing this week.
Okay, interesting. Next up, it is journalist extraordinaire, the Australian abroad, aka the Canadian in training, just reveling in the gray skies and rainy days of Vancouver, British Columbia. Lauren Rouse. Lauren, what's going on? How are things? You've decorated. I like it.
Yes, hello. This place is becoming more like home, as I was saying before. It's not my house until I have video game artwork up on the wall. So the viewers can see that, and the listeners will just have to imagine that my wall looks awesome right now.
Excellent. Yes, but close your eyes. Look into the mind palace. Look into the black rose magical sphere that's in your head here, and you may be able to imagine what's going on in Lauren's room. Next up, on the show today, we have a very special guest for Arcane Month. It is tech writer, car fanatic, video game fiend, Zac Kelly. Zac, what's going on? How are you?
I am good. Just woke up. It is quite early in the morning here in Australia. So yeah, if I'm a bit slow, that's why.
Zach's
That's
taken my
okay.
spot on
We
the
are
time
happy. We are
zones.
happy to have you here. Usually, it's been a couple months now where we haven't had an Australian, but we couldn't go too long having somebody wake up at the crack of dawn to get on the podcast.
That's how we do it. That's how we do
That's
it
what
over
we
there.
do. That's what we do. On today's show, we continue Arcane Month with reviews of episodes 4 through 6 of season 2. But before we get to all of that, I want to know, what have we all been playing over the last week or so? I wasn't here last week, so I did miss your guys' wonderful chat, Lauren and Tom, with Courtney. It was awesome hearing you guys review those first 3 episodes. But what have you been playing over the last week? We'll go right to you, Zac, because you are our guest. Have you been getting up to anything? You are the video game fiend, as it says in your introduction. So what have you been playing over the last little while?
I've been getting back into Warhammer 40k Darktide. So this is a
Okay.
game that launched I think it launched 2 years ago or something like that. It originally launched on Game Pass when it first came out, and it was essentially it's your PVE modern Left 4 Dead 2 style game where you and three other people are going through like an environment of hordes of enemies and completing objectives and stuff like that. It was really good when it came out. It's like all the combat felt really nice and fluid and stuff, but there was a bunch of like other gameplay systems that didn't feel quite right. So they've hammered out a lot of that. They've updated the game this month with a new game mode that I actually haven't gotten into just yet. But they've just been trickling updates out that whole time. And it's actually a really good time to get into Darktide. It's not on Game Pass anymore, but it is on so Humble Bundle has a subscription service for games, and it is the star game this month. So yeah, good time to buy it.
Awesome. Are you a Warhammer fan at all, or is this was
No,
this kind of
no,
your first dip into that world?
I'm really only interested in the video game stuff. Like my apartment just would not be able to house the miniatures. As cool as I think they are, I was at PAX a month ago and I was seeing so many of those tabletops and God, I wish I had the time and the space for that. But no, no, no. I'm really, really into Darktide. I was not so into Space Marine as much as Darktide, but I still really enjoyed it. But yeah.
Yeah, Space Marine. We talked about it here on the show. That was my first kind of venture into the franchise. I played it earlier this fall and was like, this just feels like from another era. Like it is such a PS3, Xbox 360, Gears of War, over the shoulder. Let's just murder some fools as big bulky dudes in armor.
Yeah, and it's that classic single player journey style game that you don't get a lot anymore. I really liked it because I like playing as big bulky characters in games, and it had like this big power armor setup that like I wish like more games had. But yeah.
Lauren, what have you been getting up to?
I am still playing Neva, and I have a theory of why it's taken me so long to play this game. I still haven't finished it. I think it's because I stop literally every 5 seconds to take a screenshot. So no game is really being played. I'm just taking screenshots, and I think my Switch is like, you're running out of hard drive space because of this. So yeah, it's a wonderful game. I'm still really enjoying my time. I love how each, I guess, like season brings a new kind of gameplay element between your character and Neva. And so I'm really excited to see what that like final season is going to look like and what kind of cool things I get to do with that. Because I've just gotten the ability. Oh, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but maybe not. But anyway, the ability to sort of like use Neva as a weapon, which is really cool. So I am enjoying it a lot, and hopefully this time next week I'll have it finished.
Excellent. Tom Drew, what about you? How's
Uh,
Astrobot?
Astrobot is completed. It's
It's
100%.
done.
It's platinumed, and I've done the Stealth Speedway things. So those were a lot of fun too. Like the speedrunning levels that they added to the game. They're like a bit of fun. I'm not like a person that goes out of my way to like grind those out. But this is very cheeky of me. But I did go in and I saw Klein's time, and I was like, I'm gonna beat all of Klein's times. So I'm sorry, Klein. You can go back in and
It's
re-beat
fine.
my times too, but that's just how it goes, man. I'm
Oh no,
sorry.
war's been declared.
The
Yeah,
gauntlet's been dropped. All the levels are out now, so like all 5
exactly.
of them are there. I've only done, I think, 3, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I'm gonna beat your times, Tom.
you got some time. It's fine. But yeah, the other major thing I did was that Arcane had this kind of pop-up event in London this past weekend.
You
Um,
went.
I went to that. I
Yeah.
had a really hard time like convincing someone to go with me because like if I didn't find someone to go with, I would just gone on my own anyway. But the slot that I had was like 8:45 in the morning, and it took me like an hour to get there. So it was like, it was a tall order, but I convinced one of my friends, Natasha. So shout out to Natasha, thank you so much. To accompany me, and she had no idea. Like she's not seen the show. She doesn't know anything about League of Legends. She's a complete non-gamer. So it's interesting to see her perspective of it, but she liked it too. It was cool. It was kind of like this sort of immersive thing where they dress up this space to look kind of like basically like the last drop, like the bar in Arcane, and they had like different stations there. So they had like a thing where you could get the wanted poster of Jinx, you could get that like a physical version of that, and then they would like had these artists who were like tagging it with like Jinx kind of like artwork. So they did like X's over the eyes, or they the guy, he was like asking me what I wanted, and he's like, would you like a monkey? And I was like, yes,
Hell
I
yeah.
would like a monkey. And he just chuckled to himself. He's like, yeah. So that was fun. They also had the bar, the last drop. So they had like once you entered, you got. I have it here. I've got some props to show, guys.
Yes, please show.
I
Show and tell.
I have this. It's like a coaster, with drinks on it,
Wow.
and it's also like it was like a free drink token. So they had like different mocktails themed after different characters. So I got the Vi themed drink, which is kind of like it tastes like a passion fruit sort of kind of a thing with soda. Really good. It was a really nice drink. They also had a this is the most unexpected thing, I think. They had like a section where they had like monitors set up with League, so you could play like 1v1s. And this is my first time ever playing League. This is why this is in the what we're
Nice.
playing section.
Good. You're hooked, right? You're gonna
y-
spend the next decade of your life playing this game.
Look, I really hope Courtney's not listening to this episode, because guys, I'm not good at this game. I had no idea what I was doing. I've never touched a MOBA in this way. Like I just didn't know what I was doing. And it was 1v1, so I was playing against Natasha, who was a non-gamer. She doesn't play games. She beat me in the 1v1 twice in a row. I can't even describe. Like, I'm not a gamer. Like, I don't know if I deserve to be on this podcast. Like, it's kind of insane. So yeah, League is not my calling, which is a shame. But that's fine. That's fine. Two other things that I'll quickly mention. They had like little moments where like actors would come out dressed up. So they had one moment where they played Paint the Town Blue from the show, and then someone dressed as Jinx like came out and basically danced around and like caused a bit of havoc. So that was cool. And then they also had someone dressed as an enforcer, and who was basically looking for Jinx. That was the storyline, I guess. And she just came around and was looking gruff, basically. So that was a bit of fun. That was kind of the immersive element of it. But then the other thing they had was hair dyeing and like a tattoo parlor sort of thing. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm getting inked. And this, I don't know if you see it. This is what I got.
Nice.
How cool.
I tried to prank my parents to say this is real. It's not real. They saw right through me. They're like, that's not a real tattoo, but that's fine. I also did. They had like different designs. I asked for like the gears that Vi has.
Yeah, Vi's back tattoo. Did you get your whole back done?
They asked me if I wanted to do it on my neck. And like that's quite like that's quite a decision. I didn't know I was ready to do that. But I asked for the gears, and then I guess she just didn't think about it, and then gave me the clouds that Jinx has. But which is fine. I think it looks cool for the few days that it's going to remain on my body. But no, it was a really fun time, and I think it was just a like fun little event to celebrate Arcane, and it was nice to see like other fans there having a good time too. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Tom. That sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I could have gone. It's funny, when you brought up the bar, I was thinking immediately, you're there at 8:45 in the morning, but then you said mocktails. And so I was like, are they letting people just crazy. Like, I know this is England, but that's awesome. I've been playing, more Dragon Age. It's consumed me. Haven't smooched anyone yet, but I have a feeling it's going to happen soon, guys. Things are happening. I met a nice man who has a pet griffin, and boy howdy, has he won my heart. This little griffin is adorable, and this man is just a wonder. So yeah, that's the Dragon Age side of things. And then I want to shout out, I've been playing a little bit. I got a code sent to me for Blasphemous 2. I don't know if you guys have heard of this game at all. It's a pixel art Metroidvania that came out last year. They just released a major like expansion called the Mea Culpa, and it's essentially like, what if Bloodborne was 2D, and it rips. It's so cool. It's itching that Prince of Persia void in my heart after I finished Lost Crown earlier this year, but it's just a little bit harder because it is like very like dodge and parry, and it feels very Souls-like, but it's on a 2D plane, and it looks very Castlevania. And so I'm a few hours into it and like just really, really enjoying it. I don't know if it's something about the 2D plane of action as opposed to 3D like a traditional Souls game, but I feel I'm way better at this than I have been at any of the Souls games I've tried. And it's a lot of fun. It's absolutely disgusting in the best way, just like Bloodborne is, where everything's just kind of like dripping wet a little bit, like the environments and the enemies, and everyone just looks absolutely gross. And I'm liking it. It's good. It's a good time. I'm excited to get through kind of the main game and keep going and try this like new content that they've put out in the Mea Culpa update, because like so far it's just like, so I wish I'd had this leading into Halloween, because it's just so like moody and gray, and the music just like when you get into a boss battle, it just like picks up, and it's got this beautiful pixel art and stuff like that. So it's really good. I'm really liking it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at pictures of it. Like the art is gorgeous. Like it's this like kind of gothic, I guess like Christian themes to it, for sure. Like that imagery, but yeah, I really like dig it. I'm interested. This has piqued my interest for sure.
Yeah, you might like it, Tom. I think you might like it. It is very like, it's scratching that like Castlevania itch that I haven't had scratched in quite a long time. But that's what we've been playing. That's not why you're here, though. You were here to hear our thoughts about Arcane Season 2. So I'm going to throw it over to Lauren. We'll get into our review. Lauren Rouse, take it away, please.
I was thinking about how last week because we don't have our news intro from Tom, do you want to give us your best Imagine Dragons?
Me? Oh, God.
Yeah. Carry the team. Come on.
What segment of the song? Oh,
the intro. The
full thing?
Yeah, we're waiting. You don't have to.
Yeah. Oh, the misery. Everybody wants to be my enemy. Was that
perfect.
okay?
I loved it. Thank you so much.
I got a confession about the intro though. I skip it every time.
Oh.
I do
Whoa.
not like the song.
See, I
I
don't like.
love
I'm not a Imagine Dragons fan in any way at all. I like the song though. I'm into it.
I have heard too many Imagine Dragons. I've imagined too many dragons in my life, and the intro is gorgeous. Can't stand the song. Sorry.
I did see a thing the other day that was like Arcane's greatest success was making people like Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
Which, listen, I
God.
like Imagine Dragons, so I took slight offense to it, but I understand. All right, intro done. We're going to talk about episode 4. So, last week, we covered episodes 1 to 3 with our special guest, Courtney Smith. So, if you are yet to catch up, go back and listen to that or watch that. We had a great conversation. But picking things up in episode 4, I'm not going to do this every time, but I had this theory, which was that there was going to be a time jump. There was a time jump, guys. We don't have as much of a significant time jump this time around as it was in season 1, which was like God knows how many years. But we can tell that time has passed and things have changed. So since imposing martial law, Zorn is very oppressed. Caitlin is now this commander and is kind of like, I've called it she's gone into dark mode, into vampire mode. And we also catch up with Jinx, who has essentially gone to ground and has built this little life for herself with the little girl named Isha, and they have this wonderful friendship that they live in their underground bunker and just like live their lives together. Meanwhile, up top, people are being oppressed and their only symbol of hope is Jinx. So even without kind of trying, like after her stunt in episode 3 where she like released all the paint over the city, I think that was kind of their only source of inspiration. And now she's like the figurehead that they're looking for. So let's talk about the time jump. How do we feel about where everything picked up after the break? Tom, let's start with you.
Man, the time jump was it was kind of whiplash because you start with a really cool opening with Paint the Town Blue, and like it's this really cool like graffiti like arts. It reminded me of the Spider-Punk kind of like origin story from Across the Spider-Verse. I thought it was like it had like this like cut and paste sort of thing where like they were taking like different characters and like messing with the frame rate and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. But then they hit you with the whiplash that Kate is now with Maddie Nolan, and I'm like, oh my god, we've had some time. We've had some time away. So yeah, we definitely need the time jump. I think it was necessary to kind of reset things after like such a explosive third episode. But yeah, it was a lot. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. But it does create that dynamic between Kate and Maddie. It does create this interesting story arc over these 3 episodes where Kate is like basically pissed off and using this is my interpretation, but basically using Maddie as like a distraction from like Vi's kind of absence, and then Vi, who we'll get into a bit more later, she's got her own thing and just basically using aggression as her way of dealing with this sort of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was like a really effective opener in terms of kind of setting the groundwork and that sort of stuff.
I think that was very deliberate with like sort of portraying Maddie Nolan as sort of the bounce off, right? Like because in the shots, like Caitlin was obviously very distracted, right?
Yeah, I don't think they have as much of a significant connection as Vi and Caitlin, obviously. But still, I was like, wow, what a snake. Okay.
Wow.
Klein, what did you think?
Maddie just wants to be loved, and you know what? Caitlin is willing to give it, at least for right now.
Mm-hmm. Look, I got over it because clearly they didn't dwell on it for very long.
No. But there's like in that moment, you totally see that like Maddie is absolutely like infatuated, and like Caitlin is kind of just like come on, like she, like you said it best, Tom, like she is using her. Like it is really just like I need something to fill this void, and you're willing to give it to me.
Pretty much, yeah.
Zac, what did you think in terms of how things have evolved with Jinx and her relationship with Isha, and also her becoming that kind of symbol for the people of Zorn?
I think it's an interesting way that they've gone about the symbolism of Jinx, because like she didn't ask for any of this. She was a merc, for God's sakes. Like the paint the town blue thing wasn't even her. That was a mistake. That was from what's her name? The armless one that was
Saviko.
Oh, Savika. Yeah.
Savika, yeah, that was her. Um, I love the character of Isha. This arc, just I really wish we could have happiness for just one end of arc, but I think this run of 3 episodes really made me appreciate this release format that Netflix has gone with, where they're releasing it in 3 episode blocks, and it doesn't feel like necessarily breaking a season in half and releasing it as part one, part two, because all of these arcs feel very well contained. Can't wait to see Echo back. Can't wait to see Heimerdinger back. They were very absent. They weren't there at all. Yeah. Number one Jace hater now. Oh yeah, I guess Jace Victor shippers are in shambles now, aren't they?
We'll get to
Yeah.
that a little bit later on. Klein, do you have anything to add in this like time jump section?
I was surprised. Like that's really it. Like it started, and that opening with the painted town blue was remarkable. I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, it's crazy to me that every single episode, how comfortable this team seems to be in breaking form. Like there is no uniformity to their animation style in any way. Like they're just like, hey, we're gonna do a watercolor section. We're gonna do this like amazing graffiti montage to start it, and they're going to like tell this whole story in these 3 minutes with Paint the Town Blue playing over top of it. I thought it was really impressive, actually. And the fact that I could tell without any dialogue happening, just like these flashes of paintings, essentially, could tell, oh, the entire arc of the show that I thought season 2 was going to be about literally just happened like right here, like in this interstitial sort of piece. And so I thought it was another brilliant move. I've seen some people complaining that like, oh, another montage in Arcane instead of telling the story. But like, I when you do it this well, who cares? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think people discount just how time consuming and
Oh yeah.
expensive this show is to make. But
I
also
don't know.
too,
I was
like,
thinking this yesterday when I was watching. I don't know how you edit this show, how you storyboard the show, how you even animate this show, because it is so chaotic in like there are shots that must cost so much money that are on screen for a frame, 2 frames, like they're barely there. And it's just like it's wild.
yeah. I feel like sometimes it does get the better of them. Like there have been shots this season where it's been a little bit hard to follow. There was one shot in particular in the first arc of this season where there's like sirens going off and there's like 2 soldiers and they're kind of just looking around and it looks like stock animations. Like they're not like, it doesn't look like they know where they are, what they're doing, what their life is, what their name is. Like it doesn't look like it's completely well done. But like the use of the animation and the art and the different animation techniques, it's such a good way of portraying just the different archetypes of the characters they've got going on.
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that, and I guess like one of my issues with the show is that it does speed along quite quickly. But then on the other hand, I'd rather that than, we drag things out and we kind of elongate storylines when we don't really need to. I think like, the whole thing with like storytelling is like, and especially like film and TV, like it's just show not tell. And I feel like a different show might have gone to that sequence and be like, okay, and then the people, did this uprising, they're doing this, and like they tell you all the stuff. When really, like this just encapsulates everything you need to know in a really concise and effective way, and a really visually impressive way. And I think
it doesn't feel like there's any wasted time
exactly
in the
That's
show.
right.
Yeah.
I actually thought overall, because some of my notes last week were that I did feel like particularly episodes 1 through 3 were like really, really quick, like fast paced. And it was almost like you were like grabbing onto a rocket and just holding on for dear life. I think this episode really slowed things down. And like it wasn't that it felt slow. It's just that we had a moment to breathe and sit with these characters. And particularly this episode is about Jinx. This is her time. We're finally getting into a side of her that we didn't really get to see. And we saw it, like she had plenty of character development in season 1, but this is like, I guess she's going to have a redemptive arc. So this was really laying the groundwork for that. And basically the plot of this episode is that the main thing that happens is the people of Zorn have a rally at Vander's statue, and most of them, like Jinx has turned her back. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be your symbol. That's not me. I'm not a hero. And so like Savika runs the rally and tries to gather them, and it looks like they're getting along, but really it's Isha who shows up and pretends to be Jinx that really like lifts their spirits and shows them coming together as a people. But of course that can't last. The Noxians have to get in there and ruin everything, as they always do. So they come in, they arrest everyone, including Isha and Singed, who was, I don't think we've seen him. Oh yeah, we have. We've seen him at the end of each episode, who we saw he was like capturing the Merc Wolves. He's experimenting on them. And in the last episode 3, we saw him with the Beast, who we know is Warwick. So they're all arrested. They get taken to Stillwater. And then we get this great sequence. I thought this was amazing, between Savika and Jinx doing a prison break, which was so much fun. I want to hear your thoughts on this dynamic, because it was quite humorous and quite light, but also obviously it was a prison break. It was just something a little bit different, which I was like, this is amazing. I'm really enjoying this. What did you think of that, Klein?
I thought it was so much fun. I have written down that like this might be one of my favorite sequences in the show. I think this is top 2 or 3 episodes for me out of the entire series so far. Like really once we get from that rally into the prison break sequence, it's the best the show has been. It's just it's so incredible. And yeah, I love the Jinx and Savika relationship is so much fun, because like they both kind of know that they can't almost exist without one another, but they don't like each other particularly fondly really at all. And it's just a fun, like, it's like this I don't know, this just consequences, or the circumstances that they're in, they have to be paired up, and they know that without the other they wouldn't survive. And it's fun. I like it a lot. And the ending of the prison break is 10 out of 10. Inject that energy into my veins.
I really loved that moment where Jinx is getting ready to like mug the enforcer, and the enforcer doesn't believe that it's her. She's like, wow, the criminal mastermind Jinx is like, that's you wearing those pants? And she's like, what's wrong with my pants? Like, so good. 10 out of 10. What did you think, Zach?
I really love this episode. I love all of the episodes. It of the 3, I thought this was my least favorite. The other 2 were just so high energy compared. But I don't really have any more notes on this one.
Sure. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I love this. I think like the seeds of this kind of relationship. I mean, we've seen it in season 1, but like seeing Savika and Jinx together in episode 2, where they're kind of having to like team up, and like the moment where Savika's got the arm, and like she plays the music on it and it's playing Get Jinx, and like she looks at Jinx, she's like, oh, isn't this great? That just kind of encapsulates the whole thing. I would love that, and it continues in this one. I really like the kind of almost pep talk that like Savika gives to Jinx before the prison break. Like she tells her that Isha has been taken, and then you get this really cool like sequence where it's like scribbly lines, and like everything's kind of jerking around. The composition like changes as well with where Jinx is in the shot. And then Savika's just basically like, get your shit together. Like Silco sacrificed a lot for you, and like we need to sort of do this. And I liked that, and then seeing that go into the prison break as a whole, I thought like it was just a lot of fun, like seeing Jinx disguised as an enforcer, and like basically sweet talking her way through. It was just cool. I love a prison break sequence. I think it's just a great trope to use in media. So yeah, I ate this up, and especially when Warwick enters the picture, like it goes crazy. Like it's just so great.
Well, let's talk about Warwick, because that is the big other thing that happens in this episode. We finally get to see this beast that has been set up in the previous, like hinted at in the previous 3. People have been waiting to see him on screen for so long. And I feel like his arrival like could have been done better. It felt almost like a horror movie, the way they set him up, where you're seeing things in this really cool like red paint murky art style from his point of view, and then you just see the trail of bodies that he leaves in his wake, and there's all like the red smoke and everything as he arrives. And
Mm.
yeah, it was a very, very effective introduction. And of course, there is the Warwick and Jinx fight. And then we can talk about the reveal as well at the end, which is a long held fan theory that we talked about last week, which is that Warwick was in fact perhaps Vander underneath all that.
Mm.
And turns out we were all right. So let's all pat ourselves on the back for that. Zach, did you have this theory? Did you suspect that Warwick was Vander?
I didn't have this theory, but I definitely saw it when season 1 was going on. People kept talking about it. I mean, I guess it wasn't as much a theory. Like, I think we were always going to get to this point because the Warwick Vander evolution was always a part of the Warwick character. Like, it's literally top line on his wiki page. But it kind of strikes me in terms of like this was a reveal very much for fans of the game. And what I mean by that is that it was kind of just dropped out of nowhere, the Warwick Vander sort of evolution. Like, when the name Vander gets said in this episode, it's the first time anything to do with that character has actually happened since the first season. There's been no like build to that specific Vander. Like, the Warwick character has been being built this season, and I think a little bit of the first season, if I'm not mistaken.
Hinted at, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that Vander character just wasn't there. So I think this was very much a thing for like game fans. I wonder what someone who isn't too into like, you know, big point, hey, that's that character kind of reveals would think of that, because it did kind of feel out of nowhere. Even for me, someone who like suspected it would happen.
Well, I think that Vander's reintroduction at this point in the story is actually kind of needed because his death is the reason so many things have happened in like Jinx and Vi's life. It's basically how they became the people that they are. And we'll talk about it in the next episode, but basically his reintroduction at this point is what's going to like bring them back together. And so perhaps without that, it might have been harder to get there, because what reason do they have to come together now, particularly after almost wanting to kill each other, then to come back together for their father, who, you know, Jinx obviously has a lot of guilt over what she did. That's part of her trauma. Vi has a lot of grief. And so I think the way that they combined him with Warwick, because really all we knew about Warwick is that he was a man in Zorn and like he was respected, but they never named him as Vander. And of course we have in this series this man who was respected, who was Vander. He was original. He was not a champion from the game. And so they've like merged those two identities. And I think that was like a clever piece of storytelling. They've done it with someone else in this batch of episodes as well, but we'll talk about that in the next episode. Klein, thoughts on Warwick's appearance?
It was sick. I mean, I don't really have anything like too groundbreaking to say. I thought that they did a great job of doing the thing that I love in these kind of moments, whether it's like it's just any like monster movie, or where it was like I was sitting there on the edge of my seat waiting to see him, and they do such a good job of like of holding that back but still giving you like those clues, whether it is the amazing like first person view with the scent trail going on, or I think of like Mbessa standing at the landing pad at the prison, and you just see the cart that they've been showing, these carts going back and forth, and the one showing up with the door kind of a little broken and something breaking free. And then the final reveal, those final few seconds before you get a good look at him, when him and Jinx finally fight, when they're standing in front of that elevator and you're just hearing these like bangs and they're getting closer and closer and closer, and finally he breaks out. I thought that they did such a great job of like holding themselves back from showing it, because we ultimately get so much more of him in the next two episodes. So I was really impressed. And when he finally shows, like, I was in tears by the end of this, like him getting right up to Jinx and saying powder, and it's just like cut to black. They do such a great job of this show of just like building, and then just like boom, drop something, and we're either going to go to another scene or the episode's going to end. And I'm sitting there going, well, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I need to pick up my pieces before you can do anything else. But yeah, I was really impressed with this kind of Warwick reveal, because we knew it was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought the fight between Vander and Jinx was just sick. Like, I think the fact that Jinx now has like a bit of shimmer in her, I think adds a lot to these action sequences, because you can have this like giant bulking werewolf man like attacking Jinx, and she's kind of like, it's cool to have like the speed lines on her. She's like very nimble and agile as she's kind of running around him. I just thought it was so well choreographed. I thought it looked really great. But yeah, the build up to that moment I thought was really great. I am kind of, in terms of like the reveal of Warwick being Vander, like I think like I've sort of talked about with the kind of pace of the show, like it is like both an issue, but I also like think it works. Like it says, I don't know, it's like a weird thing they go back and forth with. But I think the way they do handle it here, I'm glad they don't like dwell on like, oh, is Warwick gonna be Vander? Who knows over these?
Yeah.
Because it is so integral to these 3 episodes. I'm glad they're just like, we're revealing it. Let's now get into like the meat of like the emotional drama and how that's gonna shake things up for the rest of these 2 episodes. So yeah, I'm glad they kind of just got that out of the way, and that goes for a lot of the reveals in this show.
Yeah, they don't waste time. I just want to say one more thing before we move on to the next episode. I thought Ella Pennell's performance in this was top tier.
Oh,
This,
amazing.
like, just it's subtle changes in her voice that, because like we were saying with the mind scribbles, like Jinx is kind of in a place where she's almost, I guess, the most level-headed she's ever been. She's put to bed a lot of the trauma that she had, and that's why when they came back, when Isha's gone, like you can really see her fear is like that people who get close to her die, and now she's like, Jesus, like Isha's in this like position as well, and so them using the visual animation for that was really great. But yeah, I think I really appreciated just the small reflections that she could put in with like Jinx's doubt and like humor and things like that. I thought it was really great because particularly this episode is like she does become the hero. She like, despite not wanting to, that's basically what her arc is in this episode, and to sort of like rescue the people of Zorn and have them accept her and like have that moment where they're all like touching her on the shoulder, and just probably the first time in her life that she's felt like she's done something for herself and like that she's been accepted by like the people around her for her. So it was a really nice moment. And yeah, props to Ella Pennell for that. We'll go on to episode 5. So this picks up mainly with Vi at the beginning. We have the pit fighter Vi montage, which again, I guess you could say that's Arcane opening with another montage, but it's a very effective montage where we see that in this time jump, Vi has just turned to what she does best, which is beating people up, and she's turned to her own addictions, which are also like drinking and just going into this crazy spiral, essentially. We see that guy, the enforcer that she had on her team, Loris, is kind of there helping her. This guy, he's just there. There's no...
He kind of just shows up, leaves. He's gonna show up in the
he just
next
seems
run.
to go
I'm
along
sure.
with whatever she says.
Yeah.
Like was an enforcer for half a second and is now not. I don't know. I don't understand.
Whatever they're doing with his character, it just feels so strange. That what's his name?
Loris. I had to look it up because they never say it.
What are you doing here? Like he just keeps coming.
He was just
in
a man on the street a few episodes
Yeah,
he
ago,
was.
and then he
literally,
was
yeah.
involved as
Maybe
an enforcer, which I think
as
is
a special task force enforcer.
Failing upwards, right?
Yeah. We love to see it. He just leaves again, and then we don't see him for the rest of this arc. So I'm sure there'll be some moment in the next 3 episodes where there's some, big Avengers style heroes get together, defeat the Noxians or whatever is going to happen thing. But this next episode, God, it was good. God. The reveal at the end, especially, and the whole way through where Jinx and Vi are very friendly to each other, and underpinning that is really just Isha. Like, Jinx is so slow now. Up until this run of episodes, every scene where Jinx has been in, she's been so fast moving. She's been going all over the screen. She's had moments where she's stopped or slowed down, stuff like that. Specifically, ones with her father figure. What was his name?
Silco.
Silco.
Specifically, ones with Silco. But really, anything with Isha in there, she's so defensive, and it rocks. I really love the character that Isha is. It's really making Jinx's character so much better at this point in the show.
It's because Jinx has never had to, like, Jinx has always been on the other side of those relationships. And, like, I think it's really cool for her to, like, she's had a lot of past trauma and has lashed out because of it. But, like, I don't think she's ever stopped and really thought about, like, what the other side of that relationship feels and looks like. So whether it's Vi, whether it's Vander, whether it's Silco, and now she's having to reflect back and reflect inward almost, and look at herself as this, like, maternal figure to this other being, to this kid. And I think that's, like, really, really cool to see her, like, take that on while also taking on this, like, oh, maybe I am, like, maybe what I have been doing is, like, making a difference whether I know it or not, with, like, the community and stuff like that, like, pairing those two things together. I think that her arc by the end of this whole thing is going to be, like, just, like, one for the ages. I think that they really, really do a great job of putting the right pieces around her, Isha being one very important one, to, like, make her character arc really shine.
Well, that's right, because she's always been the dependent in the relationship. She's always had Silco or Vi or Vander to follow, and now she's got someone following her. So it's testing her in that way, and it's probably, yeah, it's like the perfect way to expand her character, because it's kind of unraveling what they set her up to be and, like, pushing her in a new direction. Because she even says it in episode 4, Jinx is dead, that's not me anymore, which is the identity that she worked so hard to claim in the first season. So now it's like, who is she? Is she Jinx? Is she Powder? I think she's probably going to end up as a bit of both. But it's interesting because this episode is really, like, you couldn't have had this episode at any other time without having this Jinx and this Vi, because Vi has now changed, which she hadn't really too much last season or in the first few episodes of this season. So now she's unraveled, and she's the one who's fighting her, like, mental health and traumas and things like that. Whereas Jinx is kind of the more like, the, I guess, more of the mentor in this case. And so that dynamic is really interesting this episode. So we should mention, like, yeah, immediately after the montage sequence, Jinx shows up in Vi's room and is like, Vander's back, we got to go get him. And we get this great sequence where they go into these tunnels with Isha and go to find him. But Tom, we haven't heard your thoughts yet.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms, like, picking up from that, like, I think the Vi and Jinx team up was something I wasn't expecting us to get, like, in this season, but I love it. And the way that they the thing that the moment that really, I think, encapsulated it was those interactions between Jinx and Vi in the cave, because it feels like this is the first time they've been able to express themselves, like, kind of properly and, like, honestly to each other, and, like, actually air the shit that they have with each other, and actually listen, even if they are kind of bickering. I love the bit where Jinx, like, comments on the fact that, like, Vi didn't make like her hextech gauntlets, and then Jinx, like, slaps.
No, Tom, those are her over-designed bitch mittens. Okay,
That's right.
That's true. There you go. Direct quote. Yeah,
So
I love that moment. And then the bit where, like, Jinx slaps her, I just thought was hilarious. And then it's funny too, because I think I saw this on Twitter, but someone was saying, like, these two, like, they can be the most, like, effective fighters in their own right against other people, but when they're fighting as sisters, they're just, they're just not even, they're just slapping each other, like, they're not even really trying to hurt each other. But I just loved what it brought out of these characters, and the development that you get out of the two of them. This episode was so good. And yeah, I just love seeing them two together and getting on. Like, it's just nice to see.
It was a great reminder of, like, these two are family at the end of the day. And we saw, their lives together briefly in Act 1 of the last season, but really, like, there's so many years before that we didn't get to see, but it is kind of picked up on a little bit in this great flashback sequence that we got, which I never saw coming. But basically we get to see, like, young Vander and Silco with Jinx and Vi's mother. Her name is Felicia. And they have this, like, it was such an effective conversation where it was just so, like, she is pregnant and she's terrified about it, but she believes in, and this is a point where, like, Vander and Silco haven't had their conflict yet. They're still basically best friends, and they have this dream for Zorn, and they're going to, like, change the Undercity and make it safe for her kids. And that really brings them all together. What did we think of that?
It was such a beautiful scene. I when it first started to happen, I originally thought it was going to be some sort of alt future thing where like Fi and Jinx were like grown up or something. When we saw the back of Felicia, I thought that was Caitlyn. You know, obviously, even though Vander and Kate didn't interact, but it was the hair that threw me off a
Yeah,
little bit. But obviously, it wasn't. God, it was so strange seeing Silco so young, right?
with both
With
eyes.
young hair, with
With
both eyes. Yeah. Um, yeah, it was such a powerful scene.
And did you notice the song is the same one that plays, I think, in
Mm.
season 1 when Powder's at the bar? And he makes her the same drink, which I thought was a really nice touch, that mirroring in effect again.
The use of the music in these last two episodes in particular has been so good. Like at the end with Warwick's reveal, and just for Jinx, that they're playing the same melody of the bridge scene which opened the show, which essentially is the Vander theme. It's the
Yeah.
same notes. It's so beautiful how they've done that.
Yeah, I thought that it's the flashback here. I mean, it's one of a few flashbacks we get in these 3 episodes. I think it's the next episode where we get the really beautiful like watercolor one. This to me was like I'm such an easy mark for these kind of things, like where it's okay. I know these characters. I don't know who this woman is, and the way like they had me hook, line, and sinker right from the beginning, and just like the conversation between them, you can tell that like you knew there was a relationship between specifically Vander and Silco before, and we knew sort of that like they were like very friendly, but I hadn't really seen that before, and so getting that here and really, really like, oh, like these guys were like they wanted to craft this like Undercity, this Zon for the people and for the community, and really wanted to like be like offer a refuge for the people who had been thrown away from the like Piltover society. I didn't really ever get that, and then we get kind of the origins. What's the line that the blisters and brimstone?
Bedrock,
Like
yeah.
we get bedrock. We get kind of like the origins of that, and then like just the last line of this. I've always liked the name Violet. Is like again, I'm an easy mark. Like it was very like easy to get me, but I'm sitting there going like, yeah, that's her name. But yeah, it's great. It's so good.
Her character design also is so perfectly blended between the
Oh
two of
yeah.
them. Even her
Mm.
voice, the way she talks, I was like, I'm hearing Jinx and I'm also hearing Vi. I thought that was an incredible performance for such a short scene. Tom, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I basically just echo everything that everyone else has said. Really, I mean, it is just. I think Jinx says it in the episode herself, like when they're reading the letter, like it's just tragic to see,
Yeah.
like what Zorn could have actually been, and I never really put it together. Like, I guess maybe I missed a line, but like the fact that Vander was so close to like Jinx and Vi's parents, and like the fact that that's why he had to take them in. So this kind of solidifying that, and the kind of how that relates to the fact that Silco also inevitably takes Jinx in season 1. It just
Yeah.
adds so much more of a layer to that. I saw like I'm trying to remember like the Felicia has like a braid, I think in
Hmm.
this flashback, and someone pointed out that like Jinx has braids as well, so Silco must have like modeled that after her mother. So he basically gave Jinx something of her mother when she wasn't around. So I just thought that was really nice, like without even like saying it, like this just little like imagery and conveying these sorts of ideas without having to say anything at all. I thought it was just really really effective.
It felt
Yeah.
almost like to invoke another franchise here. Like it felt very Harry Potter a little bit, like where
Sure. Yeah.
like as we get later in those books, you start to like get like all the Snape stuff towards the end of that franchise, where like that's what this really felt like to me. Is like, oh, like you're giving these like we had this meaning of these characters and their relationships, and you're totally recontextualizing them later on in the story, and by way of these like flashbacks and stuff. I think that it was done very well.
I just have to quickly touch on when the flashback sequence ends, we kind of come up and they've found. There is a great fight between Warwick and Vi, which looks really cool, particularly in that dark tunnel space. Great slow mo action shots. But really, when the lights come back after this flashback sequence, we see that like Vander has recognized by, and they're just in this. Like, this was the moment where I was like, "Holy, like Arcane, what have you done?" Like the music, the framing. You just zoom in on like this giant warwick or like werewolf like hugging this little like Vi looks so small against him, and then they just have this big family hug, and Isha gets in there, and everyone was crying. I was crying. The TV was crying. It was beautiful. But yeah, that's one of those moments where you're like, damn, they do it like nobody else, do they?
It's so good. Like, I just have written my notes here. Vander hug smiley face. Like, it just made me so happy. It's just so nice.
Yeah, frame it on my wall.
Honestly, like, it's just such a beautiful shot, and the fact that like Isha is now part of this like family. And we'll get to what happens to her, in episode 6. But like for a time, she's like part of this kind of unit, and it's just nice to see. Like like Zac was kind of saying, it's nice to see a happy moment. Like, and this gets undone later on, but it's nice to see this for a little bit.
There are 3 other major things that happen in this episode. Most of it was focused on Vi and Jinx, but we also caught up with Mel. So basically, Mel, she's in a prison, which it looks to be a strange kind of, I don't know what you call it, an oculorum is what I think they said it was. Anyway, and she's reunited with her brother, Kino, who she believed was dead. And he reveals to her that he was investigating an affair that Ambessa had that led to a child. And this is very shocking to them. And apparently, whatever power this child has is what the Black Rose is after. But then it's kind of revealed that maybe that wasn't actually Kino speaking. It was all the Black Rose to begin with. I was a little bit like, I didn't really know what was happening in this scene, because I think that was the intention. You're supposed to be confused by their like mind altering powers. But this was, kind of a significant moment for Mel, I think, because we see that she might have some kind of power of her own at the end. I'm not really sure what that was insinuating. But Thomas, the number 1 Mel fan, how did you feel about what's happening with her?
Well, it's nice to see that she's, still okay. But yeah, I think this is really interesting. Yeah, I think it does that double like reveal of like, oh my god, her brother's alive. Oh my god, he's maybe not alive anymore. I don't know. So I think they played with the tension quite well, and because I honestly didn't twig like that and didn't see that kind of thing with it where they would reveal that he's not actually there. I didn't think they would do that, so I think they handled that aspect of it really well. But yeah, I am kind of interested in what the intent from the Black Rose is by doing that, and whether he is actually alive. Is he still there? It doesn't seem like, I don't know why they would keep him around. But then yeah, like I wondered like what their goal is ultimately. It's interesting with the stuff about the son, like the other child that Ambessa had, and we talked with Courtney last week. So I guess slight spoilers potentially. Like,
well, it's a theory. We don't know.
It's a theory. Yeah, we don't know for sure, but whether it could be Echo, that's this secret like love child that spawned from this. It'll be interesting to see if that actually pans out. But yeah, I wondered. I have to imagine like this power that Mel has, like there's something. I mean, there must be some significance to it. Like I saw on Twitter, someone like went back to the kind of the council room, and you can see like an outline of where Mel was standing on the ground. You can see like kind of a demarcation of where her powers would have kind of like exploded essentially. And you kind of see that in this, so it seems like that has connections to that. So I'm sure we're going to follow up on that and see what that's all about. But yeah, really interested to see what Mel's up to, because yeah, we don't see her in episode 6, so there's I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, Zac, what do you think about the whole Black Rose situation this season and in this episode?
I have been paying attention the least to this arc, because I think the other arcs are just taking so much energy and using so much energy that this arc that Mel is in is just so slow and boring. And like when the second Mel scene happened this episode, I was kind of just like, oh, we're back here. But that doesn't, I still like the character of Mel. I don't really have anything else to say about it on that note.
I think you're right. It does sit a little bit outside of the main action at this point.
Yeah,
it did feel a bit like breaking momentum.
It just feels so separate to everything else that's going on and I'm sure it'll, again, big Avengers moment probably going to happen the next 3 episodes, and I'm sure Mel will be there. There's been rumors that Mel could be one of the next big League characters. That means nothing to us because obviously we don't play League, but yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe she'll end up being another League character, like revealed to be an already existing League character, as like
Maybe.
other characters in the show have been. Especially with how her scenes end with her getting that big bright light energy burst going on.
I'm kind of in the same camp as Zach here. I think that this Mel stuff, just the Black Rose stuff entirely. Sorry to badmouth your girl Tom, but is the least interesting part, I think, of this series. It really screams to me. I think you talked about it last week with Courtney, that there were maybe plans at one point to do 5 seasons of this show, and then it got kind of truncated down into 2.
That has since been debunked, but yes,
Has
I know
it?
what you're
Okay,
saying.
because
Yeah.
this to me, like, this screams like a
Like
whole
season 3.
storyline
Yeah.
that would have been in another season, and we would have focused on it like almost entirely in an arc. Right now, I'm super uninterested in it, but I think that what this show did in the first season quite well is taking all of these disparate parts and being very Game of Thrones with it, where we have all these different storylines all over, and then they all kind of like, oh, that's why we were telling those. They all kind of start to interweave at one point or another. And so I think that that's ultimately what we're going to get. But I am a little worried. Like, we have 3 episodes of this show left, and a lot of like loose, maybe not loose ends, but just like it feels like we have a lot of ground to cover to leave this in any sort of like resolute state. And so I am a little worried, and I think that like the Black Rose stuff is kind of the biggest reason why, because it does feel like it feels like almost one thing too many going on, because it's not like the last season was a lot of political thrill, kind of like there was the family stuff between Vi and Jinx, and there's Jace doing the hex tech thing, but it ultimately all kind of came down to like what this council was going to do with that technology, and the conflict between these two cities was fairly grounded for a series that features magic and machine coming together. But this like Black Rose situation, and then also like including like some of the Jace stuff as well, like they have really blown things out. And so I could see by the end of this us looking back and going like, maybe we didn't need that Black Rose kind of storyline in there, especially when we are getting really freaking weird on this other side of it with the Jace and the Victor side of things. So yeah, I'm a little hesitant.
that they've kind of just had the brakes on the Jace Mel relationship this entire season, haven't they? Like, it
They've
kind
been
of feels
separated,
like
yeah.
it's just, well, like they've been separated, and that could be its own interesting, thing on its own. But obviously Jace has been absent for so much of this up until the very end of this episode, and there's just been no overlap. There's been no mention of the other by them. Like, it kind of just feels like, yeah, that was a season 1 thing. We're not doing that again. But also too, like, there's just so many balls in the air that it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd care that much if there was more than like 2 seasons to this show, because it just feels so satisfying a point that we're at, and just being able to see it end nicely is going to be so satisfying.
I just hope it can end nicely is the thing, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
with so much in the air, I am worried that we are going to have some things where we're going, didn't really like close the book on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stresses me out too. Like, they have a lot to cover in the next 3 episodes, and I'm sure they can do it. Maybe we'll find out that the next 3 episodes are actually 90 minutes long, like each. I don't know. Surprise.
Give
I have
that
no
to me.
idea. But I just want to info dump really quickly on another plot line, which is basically, while all this is going on, we have to remember that Ambessa and Caitlin are also looking for Warwick, because Ambessa basically sees Warwick as a great weapon, like, and wants to use him, as she does. She's a warlord. And so they go and find Singed, who's still in the prison, and he like agrees to help them. And we kind of learn that Singed is where he was a ousted alchemist from the academy, and Caitlin has done some research and found out that he was actually Dr. Revik, who I have learned is a character from League of Legends, and he was responsible for creating. We had a daughter who Singed also has a daughter. We learn in this episode who he is keeping in like alive in a tank, and I believe that she has a debilitating disease that he is now trying to cure. Hence his fascination with all these experiments dealing with evolution, trying to get. Warwick is obviously Vander is beaten death by becoming like merging with this wolf, and he has like regenerative capabilities. So Singed believes that Warwick might hold the key to like beating death essentially. But this I guess is like for the League of Legends fans out there, like they would probably recognize who Singed's daughter is, which is Oriana. She is known as, I think, the Clockwork Lady. So that's a nice little Easter egg for people out there. I don't think it's going to pan out in this season, but the groundwork has been laid if they ever do a sequel or something like that, that she has been now introduced in this way. So there was kind of a nice twist because Singed has kind of always been there in the background, and I just kind of thought he was this mad scientist guy who was basically there to create Shimmer and create the experiments. But he has his own story and is actually quite important in this arc. Does anybody want to comment on Singed? Or
For League fans in particular, just two things. Firstly, like in one of the spin-off games, so I've just got it up here. So the character he's like based on, the character they reveal him to be, Corin Revik, he's not in the League of Legends game. He's mentioned in the Clockwork Lady book, and he's mentioned in one of the spin-off games, but he's not mentioned in the actual League game. Also, the relationship between Revik and Oriana, I think that has been rumored, like, to be Corin Revik, but that wasn't previously established, that Revik was essentially Oriana's father. That wasn't something that's been done before. Like, that's not mentioned anywhere, so
they've like put their own spin on it.
So, yeah.
Which is great, and it's the way that they are now sometimes being able to, like, not retcon, but like enhance the backstory of those characters in the game by putting them in the show this way, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You guys have anything to add?
They basically Mr. Freezed him. Like, they made him Mr. Freeze.
Yes.
Which I kind of love. Like, I think it's I mean, that story works, right? Like, you really feel for Victor Freeze as a character, and I think it works well to apply this to a character like Singed, who's quite like just a grubby, horrible man, like, for the most part, you know. So it's nice to see that there is kind of some more of an emotional motivation behind him that is driving this character, and I think we'll get a bit more into this in episode 6, but like seeing that kind of come out a bit more with his conversation with Victor later on, I think really shows that like how that that thing with his daughter like enhances that storyline. I think it was a really great addition to his character.
Agreed. All right, one last thing that happened in this episode, which can take us into the next one, is Jace comes back. He's back out of the anomaly. He has not been in the episodes up until this point, and he comes back looking extremely different. It seems he has aged in there. He has is not seeing clearly, and he comes across Salo, who we know is the counselor who was injured in the explosion, and he like lost use of his legs. He's basically gone to Victor, been miraculously healed, and now works with Victor. So we kind of get a Victor-Jace reunion by Victor talking through Salo here. And Jace has kind of come back out being like, I have to destroy Hextech, and that means I have to destroy everything touched by Hextech, which is Victor, and that includes Salo. So he just full-on slaughters this guy. It's kind of quite brutal. And this is Jace. Like, he wouldn't harm a flea. Like, he had all this inner guilt over killing this child kind of by accident in season 1. And so now he's out here and he's ready to go and like just kill anyone and everything that's touched by Hextech. Massive character change. What do we think of Jace's return?
Oh god!
I like
in
the
my
beard.
notes. Yeah, well, in my notes, I've like the sentence starts with "Daddy Jace," like question mark.
And then
Tom,
we were on the same page. In my notes, I say I have bearded Jace can step on me. Is what I.
So with the time jump, everybody is hot after this time jump. Black hair, Caitlin being a vampire, like they all look amazing. Have more trauma.
Yeah, honestly. And yeah, but then like directly after Daddy Jace, it just says he obliterates Salo in all like caps. So yeah, it's interesting to see how Jace and Victor have effectively like swapped their kind of Victor was very against Hextech at the end of season 1, and Jace was still kind of for it, even though he killed a child. But now they're kind of gone the opposite way. And I think it's just a really interesting way of like exploring the ethical and moral things that are around Hextech. Obviously, we don't see how Jace has become this way just yet. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see how he's just become this washed up, just heavily traumatized man. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It has me worried for how Echo and Heimerdinger are going to reappear, right? Because
Yeah.
in particular, I'm worried that they're not going to stick the landing with Jace's arc. He is so different, right? And he, like, in particular, he's such an asshole in these last 2 episodes. It just ruins everything. But, obviously, there's a lot more to that, especially when we, sort of get more into the Aurelia Singer storyline that I think they're definitely laying up now. But it just, it's another one of those things with this season that kind of feels out of nowhere. His entire character shift. Victor's feels more refined, as if it's been worked towards, but Jace's complete 180 here is it just feels so out of nowhere.
They do have some explaining to do, that's for sure.
Can I ask
And
a question? This anomaly, this dome that he goes in and comes out of, where is this in relation to like?
this is under one of the warp gates in
It's their
Piltover.
fail-safe, like their
Yeah.
generator.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Because
it's
I'm
in
like,
the
Yeah.
Undercity as well.
I must have
because-
missed like a single scene in the first 3 episodes, and then we get in here, and I'm like, this is cool. I have no idea where this is or what is happening.
Yeah.
And then we get here, and I'm like, this is like the Black Rose to me a little bit, where I'm like, why are we doing this and where is it? Because it does feel so foreign to anything else we've seen.
I think particularly in this
That's-
episode, comes right at
that-
the end, so they haven't had any build-up.
That's what I like about this specific part of it, though. It feels and looks very visually distinct from the rest of it, whereas the Mel plotline just looks very slow
Yeah.
and boring. There's just not a lot going on there. Yeah.
Well, Jace's story kind of becomes a big part of episode 6, so we'll move into that. And we kind of, in this episode, we learn a lot about Victor and how his powers have kind of changed him. There's a lot of really great, I guess, like cosmic imagery of like how Victor now sees the world and how
So
his
cool.
powers. It was really inventive. I likened it when I was reviewing it. I felt like it was Pixar's Soul kind of vibe, when they
Oh, yeah.
have those animations of the souls. Beautiful stuff. And so we see that after the time jump, Victor's made his own community. He's like, I guess, like used his powers to heal a whole bunch of people, and they have become these, I guess, like this idealized society where it's all peaceful. They don't have any weapons. So it's all living in harmony. And so I guess like Vi and Jinx have heard of this, and they bring Vander to Victor to see if he can heal him. And we get the first interaction on screen, I think, between Victor, Vi, and Jinx, which is really cool. They have a really great dynamic. And Victor, also, I know Courtney said it last week, still pretty hot after the time jump. He's looking a bit like Jesus, which is great. So yeah, Victor agrees to help Vander. He says it might be beyond his capabilities, but that Vander is worth it. And so we get this another great montage, but they do montages very well, I'm learning. And we see kind of Victor go into Vander's mind and like wade through, I guess, the beast of it all to find the man underneath. And that results in, like what you were saying, Klein, these like really wonderful animations in kind of watercolor style where you see Vander's life and you see young Jinx and Vi and Milo and Clagger are there, and like their parents, and just see his life before sort of he like became this beast. And that was really wonderful. So any thing we want to touch on there?
I just want to mention, like, if by the end of this show, I want somebody, if you're listening, maybe you can do this. Take the animation of the regular, just like Jinx and Vi. take this watercolor, take all the different like styles of Jinx and Vi that we've gotten, and just like put it out and be like, this is all the same show. Because it's, I think people who haven't seen it would not believe you. It's like, it is truly amazing what this animation team is doing, not just in like their own house style. Like their own house style has become all of these different styles, which is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think like the watercolor, it obviously looks gorgeous, but then in the same scene, like it's contrasted with like the other kind of aspect of Vanda's mind, where it's like this decayed, like falling apart, like world, and then that's also like juxtaposed with like Sky and Victor. Also, yeah, Sky's alive, I guess. She's like around as a ghost. But like their kind of ethereal sort of look, like as they go through this world. It just looks gorgeous. There's also a shot of Vanda's like body inside his mind, and it's like him, but it's like made up of like, it's almost like beastly. Like his body's literally made of like lion faces and like different eyes poking out. It's like such a cool way to expand like not even just the art style, but like the character design and how that kind of informs what you're seeing. I think it looks like great.
It's such an immensely emotional scene. Sorry, I just realized I was calling the clockwork character Oriella. It's Oriana. My mistake. It's such a beautiful set of shots, and it's so, God, it made me cry.
Yeah.
Like everything really just works so well. The music too.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
great
man.
song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were like firing on all levels in that sequence. But basically it works. Like they kind of like Victor is basically successful in separating, like making Vanda his own mind in this body. But of course that won't last, will it? So we forget that, you know, Singed is there with his plan with Ambassador and Caitlin to come and get Warwick. And they arrive at the community, but they're very much like, I don't think they want to get into battle yet. So they're like, leave your weapons at the door. And Singed goes in alone, and he has this interesting conversation with Victor because, you know, Victor was kind of Singed's like apprentice at one point. And it's interesting to see how they have now diverged. Like Singed is very much about evolution. We have to evolve. Like Victor knows, like he can see through his powers that Singed has a daughter at home that he's trying to, like that's his motivation. And Victor's very esoteric in this episode. He says a lot of things that will probably only make sense later. But he does say one very important line, which is he talks about the final glorious evolution, which we talked to Courtney about last week, because we know that in League of Legends, Victor is not at all what he looks like, even in Arcane right now. He's kind of like a mechanical robot guy who is very like an idealist sprouting talk about this glorious final evolution. And he says it here. So I was picturing all these people on their couches doing the Leonardo DiCaprio, like, he said it.
Well, if you go looking, there's TikToks of League fans who are like, who freak out. They're like, he's going to say it. He says it. They just jump up and down.
Yeah, but another interesting thing is like you have become like Victor is essentially the apex form of Hextech now. And so Singed believes that combining Victor and Warwick will be his answer. That's the best evolution that he can get that will do everything. But Victor's like, no, you can't have this. So what are we going to have? We're going to have a battle. But let's talk about the Glorious Revolution. Tom, what did you think about this after we chatted to Courtney last week?
Yeah, I was, well, it's great that Courtney kind of like, gave us the rundown of it all. Cause like, yeah, this definitely wouldn't have hit if I hadn't had that context, as much.
Yeah.
But I think it was really cool. Like, it was really cool to see. And it kind of, I guess this goes into more like prediction territory. But
You know, I love a prediction.
yeah, we'll get into it. I feel like, where this ends up with Victor's character, with him dead and a giant hole in him, and Jace is his killer. Like Victor mentions the glorious evolution of everything. Some people have noticed that Jace's design in this episode 6, he has a lot of like touchstones that Victor does in League. Like he has like this the same kind of shoulder pad. He has the same kind of like knee pad design and some other like little similarities, which is like interesting because obviously Jace is not he's not Victor. So people are wondering, and it got me thinking with this glorious evolution wheel, whether Victor's truly gone and whether we could see maybe like a fusion of these two characters, and that's how we get the Victor that we see in League. Because like he has those same like it's strange how uncanny those like similarities are between those two characters. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I don't know. Just there's something with where Victor's going, what was going before he died, with his kind of thought process, and then like kind of combine that maybe with Jace. Like I think that could maybe be something, but I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on whether that could be the case here, or...
I think this is like the last Victor thing. I think they've kind of wrapped up his arc quite well at the consequence of Jace's arc. I mean, his arc is interesting as well, but like I just I don't know. I miss him. I loved him so much in season 1. I think the remnants of Victor's arc are very much going to feed into Singed's arc. And God, last scene where like the entire sort of commune just gets obliterated. God, Jace, you just can't do anything right, man. Like,
Well, let's talk
yeah.
about Jace's motivation, because I looked into this for an article and people are sort of questioning, like, why is he like this? Literally, what happened to him in this time? And I think we are going to find out. But basically, what we know from the information that's given is like Victor can sense that there is another will at work in Jace, some kind of voice, some kind of thing that's like he has touched the arcane and he's suffered. So, kind of the opposite from what has happened to Victor. And like, my theory about this all is that this anomaly took him to a place called the Void, which I had to Google because I haven't played League, but I looked into it, and it's basically, I guess, like the center of the universe of all knowledge, and it's really horrible in there, and like mortal minds cannot comprehend what is happening there. And so if they do, they kind of like they have a mental break. And there's like champions who live in the void and things like that, and maybe they're setting some of that up. I don't know, but I think if that is revealed to be like to if that is where Jace has been, I think that would kind of like explain his like massive 180 in this episode, where suddenly the things that he has created is now incredibly fearful. There's also theories out there that there might be time travel. Maybe he has seen a future where like what Hextech has done is terrible, and now he thinks he has to go and undo all of that. And it's sort of like he's going to do it at any cost, even if that cost is like his old best friend who he has to now destroy. But we saw in the episode when he's looking at the people who Victor have touched, they look horrifying, like they're like monsters to him. And so he's kind of reacting out of a place of fear, I think. And I do hope we find out what it is, but like my theory is that he went to this place called the Void, and that's why.
I think with Singed's arc, God, that's a complex.
It is
lot of
hard to
words.
say.
I think we are very much going to see the antithesis of Victor, where this hex tech is being used to just do incomprehensible things, and it's just horrible. Particularly if his daughter comes in and is this like sort of like really powerful, unstoppable sort of character weapon for Ambessa. It's Ambessa, yeah. That's essentially what I was thinking about that.
Could happen. They're setting it up that way. What are you thinking, Klein?
I'm. This is just another one of those things that I'm super confused about. And maybe it'll all make sense by the end of it. But just Jace's whole thing has been like making something for the good of the people, and I think and last batch of episodes, I think he kind of realized that like, oh, like maybe this, no matter what I do, there will be people that want to take the thing I built and use it to ruin people's lives. And now he's gone over the edge. There's no going back. He's crossed that threshold and has seen something. And when he was in the anomaly, I kept thinking like, oh, this is going to be like maybe not multiversal, but what you were talking about, maybe a little more like time travel-y. Like he has seen like the furthest extent at where they go on the path. Like he has done the Doctor Strange thing in Endgame. He's looked at he has gone to the very end and seen what can possibly happen, and now has to destroy it all. And Victor just gets caught in the crossfire there. So I think that's kind of where we're at with that. I think it was haunting to see him take Victor out, and that just like all these bodies just like crumple, and it was like, oh my god, like this is crazy. I love just a shout out, I love the fingers on the face. Like they have been touched by Victor, but it's very it's a very ham-handed metaphor, but like just having the 5 dots, it looks really cool.
Yeah, they have a great design. It's also interesting how they differentiate that kind of. There's so many new things in this season, but like that kind of, I guess, touch of the arcane versus what Jace is seeing, which is like a strange, I don't know how to describe it, just twisted kind of version. So that's kind of Jace's main arc in this episode. Getting back to Jinx and Vi, basically they come to this community. They have a kind of nice moment where they're like, maybe we could stay here. Maybe we could do some good here. Maybe we could be we again. Like we could be sisters, which is really nice. Like they've got their dad back. They've got Isha. They're having a great time. But we still can't forget that like Singed and Mbessa are out there like with their plan to unlock Warwick. And so like Vi kind of follows Singed back to the camp, and she's intercepted by Caitlyn. This is their first reunion since the time jump, and they're kind of bitter at the beginning, but they like Arcane pulls this kind of, I guess, like heist twist where Caitlyn arrests Vi, takes her to Mbessa, and like it all looks like, you know, she's still following the leader. And then it kind of pulls a 180 where it's like, actually, as soon as Caitlyn heard that Vi was there to save her dad, she like flipped and decided to betray Mbessa. And so she's gone in to stop Singed, and she didn't really arrest Vi, and Vi is able to break free and like trap Mbessa. And so they get them out of the way so they can like stop their plan to take back Vander. If I have one problem with this episode, it's this, because Caitlyn, to this point, has been laser focused on her revenge on Jinx. It completely ended their relationship in episode 3. And we did see some hints at it of like her maybe wavering in the cause of being like she didn't really want to go to war for this long, and maybe she doesn't really trust Mbessa as much as Mbessa thinks she does. But she kind of flips after one conversation with Vi and decides, no, we're still allies, and like doesn't like throws everything out, because like Jinx and Vi are now like they're back together, so she has to put aside this revenge mission, which I think we'll probably pick up on in the next batch of episodes. But that's been her whole thing, is she is so laser focused on taking down Jinx and getting revenge. And I don't know, I mean, I guess time could have like impacted that, but I just didn't feel like that was earned from Caitlyn at this point. Am I alone in this?
It definitely feels like one of those plot points that probably needed another season to rightly simmer. But another scene, maybe just another episode even. But I feel like they weren't going too much into like mentioning, oh yeah, Jinx is here, by the way, you're going to be best buds with her. Like I don't think that was necessarily a part of the Kate Vi reunion. And like the ending of the show, of that episode where Vi's pulling Jinx away from Isha, and obviously it's fucking heartbreaking what happens there. Like I feel like the next 3 episodes are going to be very are going to be very buddy cop, I guess, a little bit maybe between the 3 of them. Not so much, because Jinx and Kate are going to fucking hate each other.
Well, they'll have to
the
figure
whole
that
time.
out, yeah.
And I think they will. Again, if
'Cause
I
we
have
get
one prediction,
a
it's going to be
moment
the
here.
Avengers moment.
We get a moment here where like when they get to the village where Kate's down below and Jinx is looking from above in, and like you get from Jinx's side of things, like she's not 100% okay with this. Like she looks and like kind of grimaces a little bit and jumps down and helps out for the moment. But like there is a brief moment there where it's like, oh no, like she like Jinx also, it's not just Caitlyn hates Jinx. Like Jinx also believes that like Caitlyn is the thing that like took her sister away from her and turned her sister into something she'd vowed never to become.
Yes, but I think in that moment she was actually thinking that Caitlyn was here to take Vander. So when Caitlyn suddenly captured Sin, she was like, "Oh, I'm actually not going to interfere with this because you've come to our side."
Yeah.
But I agree, like that is her representation. But I think Jinx has come a long way, and I don't think she necessarily sees Caitlyn as the enemy anymore because she's got Vi back by herself. Like she didn't need her in the way anymore.
Yeah. I've just got my notes here. Kate and Vi are messy. Like their relationship. Oh
That's
my
basically
One
what
of
it
god.
them
is.
call the other cupcake in
Drama.
this scene, like when they first show
Yeah.
up, like immediately.
That's
And
when
I'm
she
just
flips,
like,
and I was like,
That's
"Oh."
"If
exact-
one
yeah,
word and you folded."
I know. I think it's so like funny in a way because
Yeah.
Caitlyn, that's all you need to be able to look.
She's down bad, Tom. It's hard.
She's down
Down
bad.
bad.
100%.
Maddie can't give her what Vi can, apparently. And so
Exactly. It's yeah, she got a special something. Yeah, I think I do agree. Like I think you maybe having that kind of addressing of like the fact that Kate and Jinx are gonna have to work together a bit, or maybe that could have helped. Instead of like glossing it over. But yeah, I think maybe it just didn't fit in like keeping this as kind of streamlined and as elegant as it actually is. And I did kind of like it. Like I I don't know. I want them to be okay. Like I'm kind of glad that they were able to work it out. But it is funny how it all comes together. And the other thing is it's cool the parallels between when Kate like takes out Vi in the scene is like directly like shot for shot and framed as the Embessa and Kate like training scene. I just thought that was such a cool thing that they kind of set up and then paid off with this moment. So yeah, I quite liked the pairing of them again, and then yeah, creating this like weird dynamic now where Kate is having to work with her mother's murderer essentially. But you know,
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the end of that. I don't see them not addressing it in
I
the
think there were
last
just
couple
other
episodes.
priorities in this moment.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I think it's just like I just wanted like one scene of angst where that they just
Yeah.
had all that time that because the last
I
thing
think
we
you'll get
saw
a lot
between
of that, dude. I think you'll get a lot of that in the next one.
them. But yeah, I just think she turned very quickly, and I just would have liked a little, just maybe one more moment scene just to see that, even if it was just seeing that scene play out where they do decide to ally with each other, just seeing that moment. But that is, I think, a product of this being Arcane, and they have like so much story to tell, and so they in that moment they just needed them to be allies again, and it was cool. It was like a cool twist. Let's talk about the big event. When Jace kills Victor, everybody in the community dies with him. This includes Vander because he had separated their minds through his powers, and I guess the Vander part of Warwick dies, and so it's just Warwick left, and he is like activated to a scale that we have not seen. He is like pouring molten lava out of his eyes, like he's on a rampage. So I guess the Noxians take this as an invitation to attack, and it all goes to shit, basically. Everyone's fighting. Like Vi and Jinx are there being like, don't kill him, he's Vander, but they don't, I guess they don't know that he's now gone. And Isha makes the ultimate sacrifice. She sees that like Jinx is in danger, that her family is in danger, and she takes the pistol, she takes the Hex Tech gems, and she goes straight up to Warwick and shoots him. And it seems that that's it. Like there's a massive explosion, and we kind of cut to black, so we don't really see the outcome, but we can assume that like that was it for Isha, which okay, child murder.
Yeah. God, this
They-
show has a lot of child murder.
So much, like it's crazy. And you like the thing is they like have the moment in this episode where Jace, because he is he's the child murderer of this show, and he almost kills a child again in the episode, and then he obviously kills Victor. And I've got here like, do not kill that child, Jace. But then after he kills Victor, and I'm assuming he doesn't know that this is going to kill everyone else, but then and it leads to all these people dying, including a bunch of kids. It's like, oh my god. And then obviously the Isha of it all, like it's just
Isha at least goes out with a blaze of glory. Like
She
Isha's
does.
like it is her moment. It's the first time that one of these companions of Jinx's has been taken out on their own accord. They're doing it to save her, as opposed to like her being the cause of it. And I think it is sad that Isha is gone, but I think it'll be interesting to see what this does for Jinx's character in these last 3 episodes, because it could send her back down into that hole that she was in before. It could send her tumbling. I don't think it will. I think that this is going to be a turning point for her, where she really embraces that, oh, I am a symbol. Like, people see something in me, and they are willing to lay their lives on the line for that. And I thought it was really powerful the way that Isha went out. I mean, it's still like, I was crying, but
Oh,
Yeah.
so emotional. The song, the way that they
Mhm.
cut like to the animations of like children's scribbles almost to show Isha and Jinx's
God,
time together.
yeah.
It was just so well done. Because also, like Jinx had said previously in the episode, she was talking to Isha, being like, "Hey, you know, as soon as you came into my life, it's like I put on glasses," and like that was such a like simple way of like clarifying her character in that moment. And I think now, like it was really tragic, but I think you're right, Klein. Like it kind of had to happen to see what
Mhm.
happens next for Jinx, and will it be a blend of like she's grieving and like blending of the Jinx and Powder? I think is what we're going to see in
I
this
think it's a
final act.
credit to this show, and I was thinking this when I was watching it yesterday. Like, we didn't meet Isha in season 1. We met Isha 5 episodes ago, maybe. And like, the fact that, how many minutes of screen time do we think she had total? It's probably less than an hour in this whole show. It's easily less than an hour. I think that, like, it's wild how invested all of us are in this little girl. We barely saw her on screen. They just do such a great job of, like, with the little moments we do get with her, whether they're playing hide and seek, the battle. Like, we didn't even talk about the little, like, beetle battle we get earlier on, her dyeing the hair, her getting the helmet,
Yeah.
and painting the streets. Like, they're usually these split-second little moments, but it slowly builds up that foundation of, like, investment into this character, so that you can do this and it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like it happened way too early. It still hits like it would if one of the other mainline characters were to bite the dust. Like, it's incredible. Like, it is really, really impressive what they did with her specifically.
She doesn't have any lines.
That's what I was just about to say. She's completely like non-verbal.
But she
so,
does the
like,
cool finger gun pose, and that's
Oh.
There you
awesome.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sets things up for who knows what in the final 3 episodes. Does anybody want to say anything else before we get to our final thoughts?
Just as we're sort of approaching the finishing line here, I'm really excited for what this studio does next. Like, I think they've said that they're going to do other League of Legends universe stuff. Is that right? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I hope this has, at the very least, a bittersweet bow on it, and we can go somewhere else. Because as much as I like Jinx and Kate and Vi, like, I don't want it. I would hate for it to get to a bit where I hated this story. And I would just love other similarly interesting and well drawn characters to be explored. So I'm kind of glad that it's going to end on this next arc, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, they have like 150 plus champions at this point. So there's like, it's not that they don't have the kind of stuff that they can draw on. And yeah, like you, I think I would love to see another aspect of Runeterra. Like, if they go to Noxus, or if they go to another completely different area of the world, I think it would just be really fascinating to see what else this place has to offer, especially coming as a non-league player, because like I don't want to play the game, so this is the only way I'm going to engage with the characters in the lore.
Tom, you got the fighting game coming, 2KXO.
I
Next
could
year.
do that. Yeah, I played a bit of that, and it's pretty fun. So maybe.
Well, yeah, next week they have a lot to tie up. We have to figure out where the hell Echo and Heimerdinger have been. Where are our boys?
I
What
need
happened
them.
to them?
Yeah.
I'm
Echo's
so
totally gonna
stressed.
he's totally gonna have like time jumping abilities like his character does in the game. That's my number 2 prediction.
Well, he's gonna
alongside-
have at least one big action sequence in these last 3 episodes, because there's this moment. There's that in the trailer. There's this really cool battle that's happening on their like Sonic Riders-esque sky snowboards. And I think that we'll have to get that. So they have to come back. But what are they gonna look like?
Well, that's what I was
what's
thinking.
happened to
Like,
them? Where have they been?
Yeah, like we talked about Daddy Jace. Like I want to see what Heimerdinger looks like with all his hair like grown
Oh,
out.
I thought you were
Yeah.
going Echo,
What does
but
he
yeah,
look like?
sure. Sexy
Daddy
Heimerdinger.
Heimerdinger.
Well, his character in the game has like a full like almost mech suit that he stands on. So like maybe
Right.
he's
Hell
gonna
yeah.
come out and he's gonna have like this like arcane sort of thing going on.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Love that for him. We also need to find out what happens with this whole Black Rose situation. And of course, the whole like Kate, Vi, Jinx, and Besser of it all needs to be resolved. So I don't envy them. And Jace, he's around too. They have a lot to do, but I guess we're just going to have to find out next week.
It's going to be awesome. You can let us know what you thought about these second batch of episodes of Arcane Season 2 over on social media. Check out the show on Twitter at controller_club, at controller club pod on Instagram, and at controller.club on TikTok. We are also playing a new game plus, a video game book club game of the month. You can share your thoughts over on social media about that. We are playing Cult of the Lamb, a little nice cult simulator. Have you tried Cult of the Lamb, Zach? Have you seen this game?
Yeah. I played it when it first came out. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah,
I was at the lamb wedding last month. It rocked.
The lamb wedding. This
Very
is twice we've
good.
heard about the lamb wedding.
Very good. Well, we'll have some stories to tell. I've got a pretty good one when we do that review up here in a couple of weeks. But share your thoughts with us on that game over on social media. And if you're not watching the show, you can now. We have a video version of the podcast. It's up on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to Controller Club at youtube.com/@controller_club. We have the latest episodes going up over there, some of our best of segments, as well as clips from the past via YouTube shorts and stuff like that. Also, rate, review us as always. Do the thing, subscribe. Tom, where can people keep up with you on social media if you got anything coming up, anything exciting?
Yeah, you can find me at TomDrewArt on Instagram and Twitter. I did tease last week that I had some like Arcane inspired fan art in the works. I just hadn't had time this past week because I've been emotional after this arc. So we'll hopefully by the time Act 3 comes out, some art will be posted there. So you can check it out. Tom Drew Art.
Excellent. And Zach, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people keep up with you on social media, online? What do you have in the hopper? What do you have going on? Tell the people, where should they go?
So most of my articles are on Tech Radar, just Zachariah Kelly on that website. As far as socials go, I'm not on Twitter anymore. I'm on Blue Sky, just at zachariah.k.bsky.social.
Fantastic. Lauren, what's up? Got anything exciting? Are you on Blue Sky yet?
I am, but I'm having like a little bit of trouble transitioning over. So I will be more active on there soon. But I am on Blue Sky, and I am currently still on Twitter and the socials at lrouse19. If you want to read more about my thoughts on Arcane, I have recapped every single episode this season over on Game Rant. So go check it out. Give me a click. I would love that.
Fantastic. You can keep up with me everywhere. I'm at the Kleinfeld, TheKleinFelt, Instagram, Blue Sky. I'm still on Twitter, doing more like focusing more on like work stuff on Twitter, but I've officially the Twitter app has officially moved off the homepage. It is just Blue Sky. I'm skeeting in the skies. That's what we're doing. And
That's the secret. Just swap everything for Blue Sky. Get rid of Twitter's bookmarks.
It's good. It's good. That's going to wrap up this episode of Controller Club. As always, thank you so much for listening. See you next week for the last 3 episodes of Arcane. That's wild. Now, let's get gaming.